So Google Slides is a tool we're all familiar with. You've probably used it for presentations yourself or to have your kids do presentations, but I want to show you another cool feature of Google Slides that you can utilize in your classroom. And what this kind of solves is if you need to have your kids design things, flyers, brochures, newsletters, and you don't want to go through third-party platforms because you run into issues of getting the account set up, but also a lot of times there's free, and then they quickly run out of whatever the free benefits are, and then you go to premium, halfway through the project. So this sort of solves that problem, and then I will talk about some things to consider of whether you want to try this or something else. But in Google Slides, what I like to do is I like to go to Layout, and then Blank, and then File, and then Page Setup. And remember, if you see this and you decide you like it, feel free to pause, go back and watch it again. You can show this to your students as well. And then from here, it says widescreen. I'm going to change it to custom. And then I can set it to whatever inches I want to. So I can do 11 by 8.5. That'd be a landscape piece of paper. 8.5 by 11, portrait. I could do 5 by 3, which I think is postcard, or there's other postcard sizes. And then once I do that, I now have a full sheet of paper. And so basically now Google Slides is a desktop publishing platform. So those of you that used to use Microsoft Publisher and missed it, or wish you had something like that for your kids, you can now do it. And the reason I like this versus Google Docs, I've already mentioned the reason I like it over third-party platforms, but versus Google Docs is because you get complete creative control. And so I can sit in here and change the background, and I can make it an image, or I can make it a color. And then I've got all the tools, images, shapes, text box, all those things. But the cool thing is, I'm just going to do a shape just to make it this simple. When I add those, I can pinpoint them wherever I want to. I can also, if I put in more than one thing, let's make that a little bigger. And then I'm going to change the color of that. Okay. Oops, try that again. I'm going to change the color of it. I can now change order as well. And so I can do layers. And so the main thing about this is if you ever looked at design, logos, things like that, everything's done in layers. So it's like it's stacked on top of each other. So you take the Starbucks logo, it's like a white circle, and a green circle, then the person, then the text. And so once kids start to realize that, they get really creative. And so I've got full control to change the layer order, drag things around, put things on top, change fonts, sizes, colors, be really creative. And then I can publish it to the web through File Share. And basically it's like a web page. I can also download it as PDF to turn in, print if that's what you're doing, share with others, turn it to Google Classroom, whatever the case is. And so again, great creative control. Built into this already, auto saves to drive. You can work collaboratively. Now I will say, I like this for all the reasons mentioned. The other reason is I enjoy the flexibility and creative control. Depending on the class you're working with and the time you have for the project, you might want to consider something like Canva because they do have templates built in. And sometimes for certain projects and certain kids, templates are a good thing where they just kind of pick a good design and then fill in the blanks. So do consider that. That's one reason I would say maybe consider third party. But if you need help making that decision, if you need help coming up with things like, I want to change things up in my classroom and allow my kids to be creative, can you come help me brainstorm how I can work this into my unit, my TEKS, to change things up, to differentiate things, to engage my kids? I'd love to do that. If you're going to use this as a project, I can also come in and help to launch that. The other thing you can do is I can help you with is there's a way to, when you share, to make the link to where it forces a copy if you're not using Google Classroom already. And then we can put it in a class link and it'll force a copy of this template, the 8.5 by 11, so you can skip those steps, which might be beneficial, especially if you're working with younger kids. So anyways, hope this is helpful to somebody. If you got questions, want me to come to your class, come talk to you, just let me know.